Shogo is a lonely Nepo boy who inherits a billion-dollar company after his father dies. However, when he learns he must find a wife before taking over the company, he enrolls in a new school and starts cracking all the baddies in sight. It all starts when Shogo's rich dad passes away and leaves his billion-dollar company to him. At the funeral, Shogo is in the waiting room when he hears a girl talking from the outside, and she claims to be his half-sister. This shocks Shogo because he thought he didn't have any siblings, and to make matters worse, the girl says she wants to marry him. Shogo tells her this ain't Alabama and siblings can't marry, but just as he tries to look outside, his mother's assistant, Sari, walks into the room and distracts him. Shogo then looks outside, but the girl claiming to be his sister is already gone. Later, he meets up with his mother, who confirms that Shogo will be the next owner of Mikadano Association, but the only catch is that he has to find a wife for himself first. But since Shogo is a lonely virgin like you, his mom has enrolled him in a school so he can riz some chick with poor taste in men. To help him further, she even gives him keys to his own private apartment, where he can bring girls to make a plot with. Shogo says he can just live in the dorms, but his mom knows this wuss will never score a chick in a million years if he lives in the dorms. Sari then informs him that his stuff has already been sent to his new apartment and offers to drive him to school, but Shogo says he'll go there on his own. However, Bro gets lost on the way and passes by a cake shop, which reminds him that today is his birthday. Just then, he sees a Gen Z idiot walk out of the shop while looking at her phone and almost gets run over by Truck-kun. Shogo runs over to make sure she's okay and then grabs her phone, noting how he's never seen such an unusual phone before. He then notices from her uniform that she's in the same school as him, so he asks her to show him the way. She agrees to do it and introduces herself as Koino, which triggers a memory in Shogo, but he can't quite grasp it. As they walk to school, Kono reveals she buys cakes from the shop every day and asks him to eat with her in a nearby park. Although Shogo would like to taste her cakes, he settles for the ones she bought. After he's done eating, she casually wipes the cream off his face, which makes the guy blush. She then gets all shy and says it feels like they've known each other for years, and she believes their encounter was decided by fate. After that, Shogo meets his fun-sized teacher, Kotori, who takes him to his new class. There, Shogo introduces himself to the class, and sees that Kano is also in the same class, so he takes a seat beside her. He then notices another girl named Miyabi beside him, but when he tries to talk to her, she gives him a cold shoulder, so he decides it's best to stay away from her. After class, Shugo is taking out the trash with Kono, but they start acting like a cringe Korean rom-com couple, which makes Shugo blush. Seeing this, Kono leans into his face to tease him, only to see a scar on his forehead. Shogo reveals he got it from an accident when he was younger, and it caused him to lose most of his childhood memories. He also thinks the scar will gross Kono out, but she surprises him by bringing her face super close to his. As the tension builds, she leans even closer to kiss him, but someone hits him in the head with a soda can. That someone turns out to be Miyabi, who asks what they were doing. Before Kono can answer, she is called by the student council members for a meeting, so she skedaddles out of there, leaving Shogo to deal with the crackhead. Miyabi demands to know why he was trying to riz Kono on his first day, but he says Kono is just a friend, and she was just looking at his scar. Miyabi dares him to prove it by kissing her instead, but he tells her to stop being a hoe, causing her to angrily walk away. At night, when Shogo is in his apartment, he gets a delivery package that contains a birthday cake from the same store he met Kono at. There's another box that contains the action figure of his favorite superhero, along with a picture of a girl kissing him. Seeing it makes his head hurt, and he gets a call from a girl claiming to be his half-sister. She says she's the girl kissing him in the picture, so Shogo demands answers from her. However, she only tells him that she's in the same school as him before hanging up the phone, leaving him frustrated. Meanwhile, Kono is in the shower, recalling how Shogo was staring at her creamy puffs earlier. She wishes he'd motorboat his face between her jugs, only to get embarrassed for having such thoughts for a guy she just met. The next day in school, Shogo can't stop thinking about his sister, and gets paranoid that she's watching him at all times. He then spots a girl spying and follows her to the roof, asking who she is. She calls him Big Brother, leaving him in shock. He asks if she's his sister, and she says yes, adding that if he wants to meet more sisters, he should visit their sister cafe. She then hands him a poster of the cafe, and he finally realizes that she's just an idiot. He then asks why she was spying on him, and she says she was just hunting for potential clients. On the weekend, Shogo is out touching grass when a shady man places a knife to his back and forces him into a closed alley. There, he introduces herself as Mr. X, an agent of a secret association built to protect the members of Mikadano Group. He asks what their association has to do with him, so X gets straight to the point and tells him it's about his father's illegitimate daughter. Shogo is shocked to hear this, and his reaction confirms to X that he already knows something about it. He tells X he got a phone call from a girl claiming to be his sister, and she said she wanted to marry him. X says that if he accidentally marries his sister, he will get exposed later, and his reputation will be ruined so badly that it will destroy the Mikadano group. However, Shogo is more concerned about his sister because this will also affect her, and he doesn't want to hurt her. He suggests they ask his mother about it, but X reveals he already did, and his mom doesn't know who this girl is, just that she exists. She then asks if he's recently gotten close to any girls, warning him that his sister might try to rizz him up. The next day, Shogo is still thinking about it when Kono spots him and comes running towards him. As they walk together, she tells him about a ballroom dance party in school, asking if he'd like to dance with her. Shogo agrees to it, but just then, Miyabi cuts in the middle and tells them to stop flirting, or they'll be late for class. Later, Miss Koturi introduces Ikusu, a new student in class, and everyone immediately falls for his charms. Ikusu then walks up to a girl who sits in front of Shogo and rizzes her up to take her seat. Later, Ikusu meets Shogo on the roof and reveals that he's Mr. X, but Shogo already knows that and wants to know what he's doing here. Ikusu reveals that since his sister is hiding her identity and trying to get close to him, he's here to make sure Shogo doesn't end up cracking his own sister. He even suggests doing a DNA test of every girl who's close to him, but Shogo thinks it won't be that easy to take samples from girls. Ikusu says all they have to do is extract their saliva, but even then, Shogo thinks his sister will not fall for tricks. Thus, Ikusu suggests simply telling the girls about the test, and if they are not his sisters, they will agree to it. Shogo believes the girls will think he's a freak if he asks them to spit on him, so Ikusu gives him a drug that will make anyone drool like a dog. Shogo refuses to take that route, but just then, some girls show up on the roof and start shipping them, so Shogo invites Ikusu to his apartment so they can plan it out. However, Ikusu locks arms with Shogo on the way out, and everyone thinks Shogo swings the other way. Once at his apartment, Ikusu asks to use the shower and tells Shogo not to come inside. However, Shogo suddenly realizes he forgot to place the towel inside and goes to the bathroom, only for Ikusu to step out at the same time. Shogo takes one good look at her peaches and realizes she's a girl. Later, Ikusu chills on the bed with her cakes out, casually reading the news like it's no big deal. Meanwhile, Shogo is struggling to keep it in his pants, while thinking about how the association only hires men, and Ikusu faked her identity to join. Also, Ikusu has to be plotless for hours every day, so she becomes one with the air, which hides her scent. Unable to tolerate her, Ikusu heads out for the ball dance and waits outside for Kono. Soon after, she arrives in her limo looking like a gorgeous cutie and immediately steals his heart. Later, they head inside, and the lights suddenly go off before the student council president, Mana, shows up on stage with flashing lights and starts dancing around like a hoe. Just then, the lights come back on, and Vice President Rinka tells Mana to show some etiquette. While she's busy scolding Mana, Kono explains to Shogo that Rinka is of noble descent, and she became vice president the same year she came to the academy, which is pretty impressive. Rinka then apologizes to everyone and asks them to continue the ball, so Shogo invites Kono to dance with him. She shyly says she's not that good at it, but Shogo says it's fine and leads her into it. Soon after, everyone stops to watch them dance and applauds them. Mana arrives too and asks Kono to dance with her, so Rinka approaches Shogo to ask if he'd join her. Shogo hesitates at first, but after Rinka insists, he goes along, and they both put up a breathtaking performance. Seeing how good Shogo is, Rinka tries to one-up her by going faster, but slips, only for Shogo to catch her and pass it off as one of their moves. Once they stop, Mana jumps on Shogo's back in excitement, causing him to fall on Rinka and get a handful of her plots. Despite it being an accident, Rinka smacks him in the face, so he goes out and sees Miyabi sitting alone by the fountain. He approaches her, knowing she feels left out because no one danced with her, but Miyabi acts annoyed and tells him to leave her alone, as she hates dancing anyway. Despite this, Shogo asks her to dance with him, but she is hesitant because she thinks people will laugh at her. To make her feel at ease, he suggests they dance outside and gets on one knee to formally ask her. Now blushing, Miyabi agrees to dance with him, while Kono goes around the halls looking for him. After the song ends, Miyabi quickly backs off, but her dress comes undone, and her peaches are exposed to Shogo's virgin eyes. She quickly hugs him to stop him from looking, and even after he promises to close his eyes, she refuses to let go. Just then, Kono arrives on the scene and helps Miyabi put her dress back on. After that, Miyabi runs off without saying a word, leaving him worried. After returning to his apartment, he gets another call from his secret sister, who says he was at the ball party as well, leaving him wondering if she's one of the girls he danced with. Meanwhile, Miyabi is in the bath, lamenting over her short-sized melons. She wonders if Shogo likes them big, but convinces herself that he'd love her even if she were flat as a surfboard. On her shelf lies an action figure, belonging to the same collection as the one Shogo received the other day. The following morning, Shogo is sleeping in his apartment when Ikusu wakes him up by displaying her silky smooth skin. She then explains she was on a mission all night and needed a shower, so she dropped by his place for plot reasons. Shogo wonders how she even came in, and she says she simply unlocked his door with a hairpin. She then reveals she has a plan to fix Shogo's sister problem, and that is for him to marry her instead. Shogo's virgin ears cannot believe the words she said, and she fries his brain by suggesting they make nepo babies too. Ro asks her if she even knows what she's saying, and she responds that all she needs to do is hug him on the bed, and God will send babies in the mail. Since she missed biology class, Shogo hands her a book on how to do the deed, hoping that it will knock some sense into her. However, she is unfazed and suggests they practice right now so they don't fail after they are married. Before Shogo can respond, she pins him to the bed, right as Miyabi and Kono walk in. Ikusu makes it worse by telling them exactly what she's doing, and the girls are shocked because they still believe Ikusu is a man. At night, after leaving the shower, he gets another call, and it's from his secret sister, who tries to mess with him by saying she's in the bath. She even offers to let him smooch her kitty, but when he says no, she mocks him by saying he likes men anyway. Shogo quickly defends himself, saying he likes women, before asking her to stop playing games and reveal herself. The girl agrees to tell him who she is if he says he loves her 10 times, and Shogo reluctantly abides. However, she pranks him by ending the call right after, leaving him frustrated. The following day, he wakes up to find Koeno by his side, and she calls him Big Bro, causing him to jump out of bed. Miyabi is also there and scolds him for sleeping till late, and Shogo is confused because he doesn't remember inviting them. That's when Kono reveals they have come to cure his fruity side by acting like his sister, and when he asks why, they show him the same poster of the sister cafe which they found on his desk. This makes them think he is dying to have a younger sister, so Kadano starts by offering to help him get dressed. While Shogo is getting saucy, she explains that it's normal for siblings to help each other change, but Miyabi interrupts their scene by saying no siblings do that. She adds that Shogo will come to like girls only if their scenes are more realistic, which in his book means stealing his big bro's underwear. She then says she slept wearing it, and it made her cookie moist, but Shogo is done with their nonsense and kicks them out of the apartment. In school during lunchtime, the girls once again start bothering him by acting like his clingy sisters, and when he asks Ikusu for help, Ikusu finds the situation amusing and refuses to intervene. The girls then take him to the cafe, where they give him a very strange meal and watch him eat like creeps. At night, he realizes they fed him things that'll increase his cheeks' smashing desire. While he's controlling his urges, Miyabi and Kono start making happy sounds in the shower, making it even harder for him. Then, they snuggle with him in bed, saying it's normal for siblings to sleep together, and Shogo is at his limit. The only thing stopping him is that either of them could be his real sister. But if he gets a call from her, then these two are clear for clapping. When the girls see him sweating, they decide to take off their nighties and cuddle him to sleep. But Shogo stays up all night in hopes that he'll get that call. The next day, a tired Shogo runs around the halls avoiding them and eventually hides in the student council room, where he's met with Mana and Rinka. In the meantime, Miyabi blames Kono for losing track of Shogo, and when she asks how it's her fault, Miyabi says it's because her fat cake slowed them down. Koeno says it's not that big, so Miyabi calls her out for acting modest, when in reality, she's a freak. Hearing this, Koeno decides that she's had enough of Miyabi's nonsense, decides to look for Shogo alone. Miyabi agrees that they should split up, but also says that whoever finds him first should inform the other instead of stealing. Meanwhile, Shogo explains the situation to Rinka, and she suggests he reject them both to end it. Shogo says he can't do that because he actually likes them, but there is a special reason why he cannot get dirty with them. He adds that each day he grows closer to them, but doesn't know how to proceed. So Mana suggests that he friend-zones them because liking someone doesn't mean you have to be their lover. She also says that if someone were running away from them, she would feel sad, so Shogo decides to look for them and make things right. He runs into Miyabi first, who is upset that he ran away, and says she has to go shopping. Shogo tags along with her and learns she's buying a swimsuit for a competition, which reminds him that she's in the swim club. Afterward, they have to run home because it's raining, and Shogo gets flustered imagining her in a swimsuit. Just then, a speeding truck almost runs them over, and Shogo instinctively hugs Miyabi to protect her, making her blush. She then drags him to the woman's dorm so she can repay him by drying his uniform. But when he starts resisting, she pushes him into the bath and tells him to fill the tub for her. When Shogo looks inside, he finds the action figurine belonging to the same show he loved in his childhood, and he gets suspicious that she's the one who sent him that birthday cake. Just then, Miyabi arrives wearing her swimsuit and asks him if she looks good, but Shogo is too shocked to say a word. Seeing this, Miyabi gets nervous, so he walks closer to her and asks who she wants to marry. Now blushing, Miyabi admits that it's always been him, and this confirms it in his head that she's his sister. She asks him if he loves her too, but Shogo says he can't because she's his sister, which wipes the smile off her face. She tells him to leave her alone, but when Shogo tries to comfort her, he sees tears in her eyes and decides it's best to go home. Once home, he lies in bed thinking about Miyabi when his phone starts ringing. He picks up to hear Kuzu using a voice changer to mess with him, but Shogo immediately sees through her because he's got common sense. He also knows that his sister uses a voice changer too, and her phone must be waterproof because she called him from the bath. This gives Kuzu a lot of valuable info, so she decides to look for a similar phone and ends the call. The next day in school, Shogo calls Miyabi, but she runs off when she hears him. Just then, Kono greets him and asks if he's okay, but he says he's fine and walks off. In class, Miss Kotori tells the class that she bought a new car, but a student named Tanaka says she should hire him to give her piggyback rides, earning him a Detroit smash in the face. This causes everyone to laugh, but Shogo sees that Miyabi is still sad about what happened last night. Koenoe notices too and later asks him if something happened between them, but Shogo pretends to know nothing. Koenoe begs him to tell the truth because she's worried about Miyabi slipping into her old self, who had no friends and wouldn't talk to anyone. Hearing this, Shogo agrees to tell her the truth, but makes her promise that she won't tell anyone. Once he tells her that Miyabi is his secret sister, Kono stands there acting like she's just seen a ghost. Later in class, Miyabi accidentally looks towards Shogo only to look away again, while Shogo notices that Kono is missing. After class, as he takes out the trash alone, he gets a call from his sister, who simply says goodbye and hangs up. While wondering what it meant, he gets a call from Ikusu, who says she's finally located the phone his sister is using to call him. This phone has a high-quality voice changer and is even waterproof, but due to security concerns, it was shut down. All the distributed phones were collected, but someone must not have returned theirs. Ikusu then sends him a picture of the phone, and he immediately remembers seeing it the day he met Kono for the first time. This means it's Kono who's the culprit and not Miyabi. So as he runs to look for her, he runs into Mana and Rinka, who scold him for running in the halls. Ignoring their yapping, he asks for their help in finding Kono, and they agree to do it. After they leave, he runs into Sagura, the girl from the sisters' cafe, but he ignores her and heads down. There, he sees Miyabi, so he begs her to help him find Kono. After that, he runs off looking for her, thinking that the goodbye call meant he would never see Kono again. Just then, he realizes that he heard a bell ring during the call, and that bell is only found in the park near school. Immediately, he heads there and finds her sulking, and Kono finally realizes that her secret has been exposed. She then uses the same phone to call Shogo, apologizing for troubling him with those strange phone calls. She then breaks into tears, and after calming down, she mentions the picture she sent him on his birthday. She reveals that his dad was the one who took that picture, adding that their fathers were friends and whenever they met, she and Shogo would play together. On the day that the picture was taken, Shogo and Kono were playing as usual, but on the way back, she almost got hit by a car until Shogo pushed her aside and took the hit. Despite busting his head open, he was happy he protected her as his favorite hero would, and ever since that day, Koeno started seeing him as her hero. However, their fathers grew distant from each other, and that led to the end of Shogo and Kono's friendship. Years later, Kono saw his submission form in the teacher's office, and recognizing his name and face, she took a note of his number and address. She then sent him the cake, the photo, and the action figure to help him remember the past. But Shogo still doesn't understand how she got her hands on this phone. She then reveals her dad was the lead developer of this phone, and the voice she used belongs to a character from his favorite show. She then reveals that it was all just a prank, but she never expected him to be looking for his actual sister. She also feels bad because she thinks Miyabi is his actual sister, and she did her wrong, and that's why she was so shocked when she learned the truth. That's also why she made that goodbye call, because she wanted to end this prank. But Shogo says he could have just told her everything directly, and he wouldn't have judged her. Hearing this makes him fall for her, and just when they're about to kiss, Miyabi shows up to spoil the moment. She goes off on them for going behind her back, but Koino begs her to listen to them first. After she hears everything, she finally notices that Shogo rejected her, thinking she's his real sister, when in fact, she's not. This means he can marry her without any issue. But when Shogo tells her to drop it already, she says they used to pretend to marry when they were younger all the time. She then reminds him that she's his childhood friend, leaving Bro shocked. When he was in the hospital recovering from the accident, Miyabi's father was also there, and that's how he and Miyabi became friends. As they spent more time playing, Miyabi fell in love with him. But his dad recovered and didn't need to go to the hospital, and that's how she stopped seeing Shogo. She would cry every day, hoping to see him again, but when she saw him in class, she was sad that he didn't even remember her. However, when he asked her about marriage, she thought he had remembered everything, and that's why she said it's always been him. She then reveals that she wants to marry him for real, but Kono says she also wants to have him as her husband. This leads to an argument between the two, and they decide to settle it with a fair battle. At night, Bro's mind is overcharged by learning that both his love interests are his childhood friends, but that leaves him wondering who that girl at the funeral was. When he asked the girls, Koino said she didn't come to the funeral because she had the entrance exam, and Miyabi didn't even know that there was a funeral to begin with. This means his sister is still out there, and he must continue his search. The next day, Shogo wakes up to Kono's wagamamas poking out of her shirt, but before he can process it, Miyabi greets him in nothing but an apron. As he wonders if he's dreaming, both of them start teasing him, making the guy scream. A few days pass, and Shogo wakes up to his phone ringing. When he picks up, a girl speaks and claims to be his sister, leaving him shocked. She reminds him that she's the same girl he talked to at their father's funeral, and she's worried about him, so she woke him up. Shogo says it's still 6 in the morning, but she quotes their principals saying about early risers and reveals she goes to the same school as him. She even advises him to stop goon-maxing at night and sleep early, and Shogo is shocked, wondering how she knows about his private life. She even tells him to save some of that baby gravy until they're married, but Shogo firmly tells her that he'll never marry her. The girl casually says they're destined to marry before hanging up, leaving him anxious. After that, Shogo is leaving for school when he runs into Kono at his door. She says she woke up earlier and asks if he'd like to walk to school with her, only to notice that he looks spaced out. She asks if he stayed up all night doing hate crimes against his PP, and he recalls his sister saying the same thing to him. Shogo brushes it off, but Kono keeps bugging him to tell her what's wrong, because even his eyes look weird. Shogo says he'll fully wake up once they reach school, but Kono doesn't want to wait and kisses him on the cheek to wake up not only him but the dragon in his pants. Bro shockingly asks her what she's doing, and she says she's just doing her class rep duties. Later in class, Shogo wonders if her class rep duties come with a sloppy toppy too, and starts imagining getting some every morning if he marries her. He even imagines the time they'll finally crack, but he's so scared of Kono turning out to be his sister that he screams in real life and loses all his aura. Afterward, he informs Iekusu that he got a call from his sister, and Iekusu believes it must be Koino again. However, Shogo is certain it's not her this time, but Iekusu doesn't know anyone who possesses the same phone. Shogo says it would be foolish for Kono to try the same trick twice, and Iekusu agrees, but she doesn't know how someone can replicate that voice without the same phone. Shogo thinks it's simple, and his sister is one of those people who got that phone and never returned, so he wonders who gave her the idea to use a voice changer. Iekusu recalls that he told the student council members about the whole incident, which means one of them is the culprit. Iekusu says there's a slight chance someone was listening from outside the room, but just then, a girl shows up looking for him. She takes him to the newspaper club, where he meets the freaky president, Araya, who scares him with her strange personality. She then pulls out some of the pictures she took of him, saying that, as the sole heir of the Mikadano group, he is a big deal in school. She then asks him for an interview with high enthusiasm, but Shogo says no thanks and heads out. The next few days, he keeps waking up early thanks to his sister's call and starts looking duller each day. One of those days, Miyabi shows up at his place to check up on him because even someone as dumb as her can notice that he looks spaced out. He says he hasn't been sleeping well, and Miyabi says it's because he's been gooning to Mia Khalifa's melons. At this, he tells her to stop wasting her time and head to swim practice, but she says her practice is after school and even lifts her skirt to show him the swimsuit she's wearing underneath. Bro looks away and tells her to stop being a hoe, but when she doesn't listen, he forces her skirt down. However, it comes undone completely, and Miyabi starts beaming with joy because she has enough shade on Shogo to bully him for 10 years. Just then, he sees Kono standing behind Miyabi, and she's one bad day away from awakening her Sharingan. At school, Shogo decides to sleep in the infirmary, only to run into Sagara, who says she knows an even better place to nap. She offers to share it with him on the condition that he visits his sister's cafe, and Shogo agrees. She then takes him to the materials room, where she's hidden a futon for her to nap. She asks him to join her, but Shogo feels nervous sleeping with her, so she tells him to chill out because they're the same age. She explains that although she's his senior in school, she was only born a month apart, and they would have been classmates with slightly different birthdays. After that, she heads off to Snoozeville, but Shogo can't sleep because she's making cute noises in her sleep. As he gets up and looks around, he spots a freaky magazine on one of the desks, and his inner gooner urges him to take a peek. As he resists the temptation, Sagura wakes up and watches him twitch like a moron. On the weekend, Shogo shows up at Miyabi's swim class because she invited him to hang out afterward. So after she's done, she takes him out to Sagura's sister cafe, where they're greeted by Kurumi, the waitress. She goes deep into her sister's roleplay as she takes their orders, but the food turns out to be as bad as you'd expect. Just then, Sagura shows up and explains that today's theme is young sister wife, which gives Shogo nightmares about his own dilemma. The next day, he gets a call from his sister again, and due to his lack of sleep, he visits the material room for a nap. There, he sees Sagura dressed as a cat girl and decides he's had enough of this. Sagura begs him to come back, and once they're inside, she tells him that she was actually abandoned at birth, so her name and birthday were both given to her by the orphanage. Since she was always good at maths, she was adopted by a university professor whose wife owned a cafe. Eventually, she passed away, so the professor sold the cafe and left town. Years later, Sagura helped him publish a paper and earned some money from it, so she used it to buy the cafe to honor her foster mother's legacy. She then looks around to show him the paper she published, only for some books to fall off and reveal the exact same phone Kono uses. Shogo is shocked and immediately meets Ikusu to update her, but Ikusu says Sagura is older than him, whereas his sister is younger. However, Shogo says Sagura was adopted, so her real birthday is unknown, meaning she can very well be his sister. Just then, Ikusu notices someone at the door, and it's the same girl from the newspaper club, who informs him that Sagura is closing her cafe and leaving town, leaving him shocked. Immediately, he heads to the materials room and asks Sagura why she's closing her store, and she says it's because she made a promise to his dad. Turns out, the guy wants him to focus on being a researcher, and he allowed her to run a store only if she makes a profit off of it. However, their store is failing miserably, and Shogo knows it's because their menu is worse than the restaurants featured in Kitchen Nightmares, so he offers to help her. At night, Sagura is feeling flattered over Shogo's offer to help, but she's certain that not even Gordon Ramsay can save her cafe. The next day in school, Miyabi finds Shogo drawing something, and he says it's a delineation for an advertisement. He then finishes up and heads to the manga club room, where he asks Tanaka to draw a cute anime waifu for the ad. After that, he heads to the newspaper club and agrees to let Arya interview him if she prints out the advertisement for the sisters' cafe. Arya agrees to the deal, so he returns to class and asks Miyabi if there is any way to make the flyers any better. Just then, Kono arrives with Sagura wearing a cat-made outfit, and Shogo's little soldier starts parading in his pants because she looks too damn cute. Seeing this, Miyabi gets jealous and picks up a fight with Kono, but as Kono defends herself, her tail moves up and exposes her rice cakes to Shogo. Now embarrassed, she asks Shogo if he saw anything, but he says he was born blind. She then asks Sagura why the tail acts on its own, so Sagura says it has a special feature that makes it react based on the user's emotions. After that, Miyabi heads to the swimming club, but not before Shogo wishes her the best of luck for the upcoming competition. The next day, they seek Rinka's help in cooking, and after she prepares an omuris, Mana eats the whole thing before anyone can taste it. Seeing that it's good, Sagura decides to put it on the menu as one of the elite dishes, which makes Rinka feel flattered because she didn't think she was this good. Later, Shogo helps Kono get comfortable in her maid dress, but she's so clumsy that she can't even walk straight and falls directly into Shogo's arms. As he holds her, Kono's cookie gets moist, and her cattail starts acting up, so Shogo grabs it to bring it under control. However, this makes things only worse, and Kono ends up reaching Cloud 9. The next day, Shogo hands out flyers for the sisters' cafe, so some girls approach him and start calling him Big Bro. When he asks why, they tell him he's pretty popular as a big bro in the junior classes. Just then, a red-haired girl shows up, and he recognizes her as Kurume, the waitress at the sisters' cafe, who encourages him to work hard so they can revive the cafe. Later that day, the students from the school fill up the place, and even Mana and Rinka come to check the place out. Kono greets them at the door, and Sagara puts them in maid outfits as well so they can lend a hand. When Miyabi arrives, she can't control her laughter, which annoys Rinka, causing her tail to go up. Shogo decides to serve her, but the girls all crowd him and ask to take pictures with her. Just then, Ikusu shows up as well, so Sagara puts her in a waiter's outfit, causing all the girls to scream. After a busy week, Shogo asks Sagara about the store, and she says they are doing well in terms of customers, which means she'll be able to keep the store open. Shogo is really happy that his effort paid off, but Sagara suddenly asks him to marry her, much to his shock. She explains that since she's a genius with numbers, and he's a genius with business, their offspring would make Elon Musk look like a newbie. She is so eager that she doesn't even want to wait till marriage and offers her V-card on the spot, leaving Shogo to contemplate his choices. Just then, he gets a call from Ikusu, who says she left her cap at the store and wants it back, thus keeping his chastity intact. When he steps outside, he sees that Ikusu already has her hat, and she just wanted to talk to him in private. She reveals that she did more research on that phone and learned that the research paper behind it was written by Sagara. The next day, Shogo wakes up at 6 in the morning, shocked that his phone didn't ring today. As he heads to the balcony, he realizes that his window aligns with the window of the materials room at his school. Suspecting something, he heads to the school early and confronts Sagara, asking if she's the one who's been calling him every morning at 6. Sagara confirms it and even says she's the one who talked to him at their dad's funeral. Shogo asks her what the weather was like on that day, and she says it was quite sunny. However, Shogo knows she's lying because it was snowing that day, and this confirms that although she's the one waking him up every morning, she is not the girl he talked to at the funeral. Turns out, it was all part of her plan to deprive him of sleep and then make him sleep in the materials room so she can riz him up. She even planted that phone in the room to make him think she was his real sister, and Shogo already knows she did all that to stop him from looking for his actual sister. Sagara admits this, revealing that she met Shogo's sister at the cafe when she was younger and became best friends with her. Shogo begs her to reveal his sister's identity, but Sagara says she can't do that because it could put her life in danger. Shogo promises to accept her into the family and protect her, but she asks him to show her that he's capable of it first. Agreeing to her terms, Shogo meets Ikusu and tells her the whole thing, and Ikusu is impressed that he didn't force it out of Sagara. Meanwhile, Sagara is reflecting on her convo with Shogo, especially the part where he asked her to continue being friends with his sister so she does not feel alone. At this, she concludes that he might be a strange guy, but he appears to be a good big bro. A few days later, Shogo's morning starts with Kono and Miyabi competing to taste his sausage, leaving him flustered. In class, both girls pass sussy looks to him, and during lunch, they force him to eat from their hands. After school ends, they walk home with him, and Kono asks Miyabi to give Shogo some space. Miyabi says no because Kono gets to have Shogo a lot more than her, and Kono admits she'd like to hold him too, leaving the guy blushing. His problems escalate when he returns home to find Ikusu chilling on his bed with her cakes out, but he looks past her peaches and shares with her that both Kono and Miyabi are trying to riz him up. Ikusu suggests he clap both of them and pick one who becomes a mom first, but Shogo still can't shake the feeling that he's going to end up with his sister. Ikusu reminds him that both Miyabi and Kono are his childhood friends, but he still can't be sure because his memory of his childhood is hazy. Ikusu suggests they take a DNA test, and Shogo agrees, but she warns him that if this news were to leak out, it might be bad for his reputation. To solve this, they decide to involve a middleman they can trust, and Shogo calls his mom's assistant, Sari, for the job. The next day, he receives a kit that can extract DNA through saliva, blood, or urine, but he chooses to go with the saliva option. He then meets Miyabi and Kono on the school roof and explains the situation, and Kono confidently agrees to take the test. However, when Shugo says he'll have to take a sample of their mucous membrane, she gets all shy and tells him to be gentle. She then starts taking off her plot armor, but Shugo tells him to stop being a hoe, as he can easily collect the sample from her mouth. After being embarrassed, she lets him take a sample from her mouth, and when Shogo turns to Miyabi, she refuses because she thinks he's doing it for degenerate purposes. Even though that's not the case, Shugo tells her about the other two methods, but she gets even more upset and runs off. Shogo goes after her to explain himself, but she calls him a piss kinker in front of the whole school, making him extremely anxious. Just then, Rinka shows up and tells him to stop causing a commotion, as the school's board members are visiting and are interested in him. She sternly tells him not to make a fool out of himself, and soon after, the whole council arrives in class. Miss Kotori gets performance anxiety and fills the entire board with things that will come in the midterm exams. But Tanaka reminds her that the midterms are already over, leaving her embarrassed. Afterward, Shugo is having lunch with the girls when Mana comes running in like a hidden leaf ninja and drags him away because the board wants to meet him. Soon enough, he comes face to face with the board, where he notices that there's a cute girl around his age. The head then asks him if he's ready to lead the Mikadano group as the only heir of his father, and Shogo says he will do his best. Just then, someone starts speaking on the speaker, calling Shogo her brother, and even threatens to expose his dirty secrets if he keeps searching for him, leaving everyone with a lot of questions. After the meeting, Shogo meets up with Kusu and tells her that Sagara lost her phone, so someone stole it and used it to make that broadcast. Shogo is worried because it could be anybody, but Kusu points out that only the people in his inner circle know about the voice changer, meaning one of them is the culprit. The next day, Rinka tells him that the board members thought that a broadcast was a prank, but they're pissed about it and have demanded a stricter moral policy. Shogo is being selected as a member to enforce the new rules, but when he asks why, they tell him it's because he already has a lot of influence on juniors. With no other choice, Shogo agrees to be the morality officer, so they give him an armband. Rinka then introduces him to Shiga, the log writer of the council who will be working with them. Later at home, Ikusu tells him that during the broadcast, Koinoe and Miyabi were in the courtyard. Sagara and Kurumi were doing Dragon Ball Fusion. Mana was with him already, and that leaves Rinka, who is unaccounted for. Shugo recalls she came running to the meeting room as soon as the broadcast ended, but that only makes her more suspicious, so Ikusu asks him to keep an eye on her. The next day in school, some gooners are exchanging sussy magazines in the storage room, but Rinka catches them red-handed. She then explains that each offense comes with a strike. The first strike is a warning. The second strike means the item will be confiscated and only returned after a written apology, and the third strike will give the school the authority to destroy the confiscated item. Later, Kurumi is trying out cat ears, but Rinka gives her a strike. Later, Sagara is scouting for her cafe, and she gets a strike too. Meanwhile, some juniors crowd Shogo and ask if he'll punish them for being bad girls, so the girl from the newspaper club decides to take pictures, but Rinka gives her a strike too. During lunch, Miyabi and Kono try to feed Shugo, so she gives them a strike too. At night, Rinka realizes that Shogo should have gotten a strike as well for letting the girls flirt with him, but she realizes he's an idiot who probably didn't even know, so she decides to teach him how to have a relationship with women. However, she finds herself fantasizing about him and wonders if she's developing feelings for him too. The next day, Shugo is shocked to see Miyabi wearing a short skirt, and being a moral enforcer, he tells her it's too short. However, Miyabi playfully tells him that it's allowed and even asks him to measure it. Ro legit pulls out a tape to see if it's under the allowed limit, but when he tries to measure the length, Miyabi teases him by asking if he wants to see under her skirt. Shugo gets flustered and says no, so she keeps teasing him by flapping her skirt, making him wonder if she is trying to make him quit. Just then, Konoe shows up, and Shogo nervously explains the situation, so she asks him to measure her skirt too. Shugo says her skirt isn't breaking any rules, but she insists that he checks anyway. This starts an argument between the girls on whose skirt is shorter, until the wind blows and exposes their plot covers to Shogo. As the girls scold Shogo for taking a peek, Rinka shows up and drags him to the council room, where she makes him explain why he was on his knees, being a degenerate. She scolds him too for not doing his job right, but Shogo doesn't hear a word because he's busy looking at her drumsticks. At home, Shugo laments over his failure to investigate Rinka, and Ikusu believes it's because Rinka takes her role of vice president too seriously. Ikusu suggests that to make Rinka drop her guard, Shogo should take her out and see if she is suspicious or not. On the weekend, Shugo and Ikusu invite both Mana and Rinka to the amusement park, and they're shocked to learn that Rinka has never been to amusement parks before. They all decide to take a roller coaster ride, after which Mana is feeling dizzy while Rinka is worried about her messy hair. After that, they head to the haunted house, but Rinka says it's childish until Ikusu scares her with a mask, making her hug Shogo from behind. After that, they spot a zombie shooting Nerf ball game, and Ikusu chooses not to participate. Mana also says no because she wants to eat ice cream, so that leaves Shugo and Rinka to play the game. Once inside, they change into their swimsuits for absolutely no reason whatsoever and take the ride, where zombies try to attack them. Rinka is pretty good with the gun and shoots down all the zombies, and Shogo smiles as he sees her having fun. When one zombie almost gets her, Shogo shoots it away, and after that, they turn into a solid team. Just as things are going smoothly, they reach a section where several zombies attack at once, but the lights suddenly go off, and Rinka starts freaking out. Shogo tries to calm her, but as the lights come back on, he finds himself getting hands-on with her jugs, earning him a slam to the face. After that, they try other joy rides, and Rinka still says this is all childish, but then she sees Ikusu and Mana riding a carousel and wishes she was riding it too. Shogo immediately reads her and drags her to the carousel, making her smile. Later, he spots her staring at a raccoon strap, and when he asks if she likes it, she says she's curious because she has seen it before. Just then, Mana shows up and suggests they both buy the strap, and Shogo ends up bringing one home. At night, he realizes that Sagura had the exact same strap attached to her phone, so he calls Kono and asks her for a favor. The next day, Rinka arrives at the student council office to find Shogo already there, and he pulls out the pink phone, saying he found it in here. He accuses her of using this phone to make that broadcast, but she points out the strap on the phone is different than the one on Sagura's. She believes he borrowed this phone from Koino to trick him, but Shogo says she would have never figured it out had she not seen Sagura's lost phone. At this, Rinka finally admits that she made that broadcast, revealing that Genda, the board head himself, told her about Shogo's secret sister who's admitted to this school. He revealed that he wanted to negotiate a deal with the Mikadano group, so he asked Rinka to investigate Shogo's sister and find some dirt on Shogo. Rinka admits she didn't want to do it but had no other choice because she was engaged to Genda's son. However, this was eating her from the inside, so when she made the broadcast and made a threat, she was actually talking to Genda. She even made Shogo a morality officer to stop him from getting freaky with girls in case one of them is his sister, and Shogo apologizes for misunderstanding her intentions. He then asks if she can call off her engagement, but she says she can't, as it's decided by her parents. However, Shogo wants to protect her smile, so he asks her to pretend to be his girlfriend, so Genda calls off the engagement. Rinka feels flattered at this, so she tells him to close his eyes and starts unplotting herself. Once he opens his eyes, Bro is shocked to see all that cake, but she says she can't fake a relationship, so he could clap her for real and become her lover. Just as she pins him down, Shiga enters the room and screams. The next day during lunch, Shogo reveals he quit being a morality officer now that the cat is out of the bag. Just then, Rinka joins him with a smile and brings him a full-course meal, saying that her dad approves of him and has called off the engagement with Genda's son. She then says they're going to get married soon, leaving Kono and Miyabi with a lot of questions. A few days later, Shogo notices that someone is moving next door, and soon after, a cutie named Yuzu shows up at his door to introduce herself as his new neighbor. Shogo feels like he has seen Yuzu somewhere, so she reveals she was at the board meeting at his school. Turns out, she is planning to enroll at the school, and she hopes Shogo will help her as a senior. She then casually reveals that she is his sister, leaving him shocked. He invites her inside, and she explains that she's officially his second cousin, but no one knows that they have the same father. She even says they've met several years ago, but Shogo doesn't remember because of his head injury. She then reveals that after the death of her mother, she was adopted by her father's distant relatives, and that's why she's Shogo's second cousin. Shogo asks if his mother knows about her, and Yuzu says she does not, and she'd be pretty upset if she were to find out. Just then, Yuzu notices a woman's hair in the apartment, and Shogo realizes it must belong to Ikusu. Yuzu then sniffs his bedsheets and says it has a woman's scent, and she concludes he's been pimping hoes like a degenerate. Shogo says he barely knows her, and she doesn't get to judge his lifestyle, but she reminds him that they are siblings and it's only natural for her to worry about him. She then adds that she really wants him to find a good partner and marry, and that's exactly why she doesn't want him to be living like a degen. Hearing this, Shogo grabs her hand and apologizes, saying he didn't know she cared so much about him. Just then, he gets a call from his mom, who wants him to attend the Mikadano group's party with a woman of his choosing. The next day during swim class, Shogo watches the girls play around in the pool, but when Miyabi gets a little too handsy with Kono's jugs, Shogo jumps into the water and separates them. He asks them why they were fighting, and Miyabi says it's because Kono called her flat. In response, Kono says Miyabi mocked her for being bad at swimming due to her 5-pound cakes, so as they start arguing again, Shogo steps in to stop them. Just then, Mana and Rinka arrive at the pool, and Shogo is shocked to see Yuzu with them. The girls ask if they know each other, and Yuzu casually says she's Shogo's younger sister, leaving them shocked. The girls then ask Shogo to explain himself, so he suggests they go somewhere private. They head to the storage room, where Yuzu confirms that she and Shogo share the same father, and the old man would send money to raise her until he passed away. Miyabi thinks she's capping and demands that she show proof, but Yuzu says she can't because she doesn't want the world to know about it. In addition, most documents showing proof were destroyed, and all she can do is give them her word. She begs Shogo to believe her, and Shogo says he does, but it won't hurt to have some proof. At this, Kono suggests doing a DNA test as he did with them, so Shogo asks Yuzu if she's down for it. Yuzu agrees to it, saying she has nothing to hide and she'd do anything to prove she's telling the truth. Seeing this, Mana and Rinka are already sure that Yuzu is Shogo's sister, so Rinka confidently declares Yuzu her sister-in-law. Immediately, Konoe and Miyabi tell her to back off because they have dibs on Shogo's sausage, and hearing this, Sagara calls Shogo the ultimate playboy. Shogo quickly says that he has nothing to do with any of this, but even Mana joins in and says he's quite popular among the ladies. Yuzu notes that they all seem pretty close to Shogo, and they all start blushing because it's true. Yuzu then says it'll be easy for him to pick a partner to take to the company party, explaining that Shogo's mom instructed him to bring someone he is close to. At this, Rinka volunteers because Shogo has seen her plotless, but Miyabi tops her by saying she had a bath with him, but Shogo corrects her that they were just in the same bathroom and didn't bathe together. This causes an argument between the girls, and Yuzu smirks at the fire she started until Mana calms everyone down. She then says she'll be the one to go with Shogo, which makes everyone unite against her. Just then, Miss Kotori passes by the room and hears the argument. Once she opens the door, she sees the girls lying on top of Shogo, so she smacks him in the face for being indecent. At night, Shogo asks Seri to conduct another DNA test, and since he trusts her, he tells her about Yuzu. Seri assures her that she will protect his secret and even advises him to keep this a secret from his mother. The next day in swim class, Miyabi practices really hard, while Kono visits Shogo and decides to make him dinner. After he finishes eating, she lies on the bed and offers her cookie as dessert, but Shogo starts tickling her feet instead. Meanwhile, in the next apartment, Yuzu is thinking about Shogo's love interests when she hears Kono making happy noises. Thinking Big Bro is showing her finger-style jutsu to Kono, Yuzu gets a nosebleed and smacks the wall, causing them to stop. Later, Shogo walks Kono home, and once they are close to the girls' dorm, she says she can go from here. However, before leaving, she tells him that the dessert is still available, and Shogo starts staring at her lips. Just as he leans in to kiss her, Miyabi walks by and quickly hides, but Shogo senses someone watching and stops. When he returns home, he finally receives the DNA test results, and they confirm that Yuzu is, in fact, his sister. Immediately, he heads to Yuzu's apartment to break the news, and she asks him if he'd take her to the party instead. She believes it's the best choice because he can't choose among the other girls, but Shogo is worried about his friends feeling left out. To solve this issue, Yuzu decides to use her foster parents' connections and prepare an invitation for all of them, which puts him at ease. A few days later, he joins the party with Yuzu, and noticing that he is nervous, she wraps her arms around him. Just then, Rinka arrives in her limo and formally greets Shogo, but Mana jumps out from behind and makes Rinka lose all her aura. She then tells Rinka that they should greet Shogo properly, which in her books means throwing her arms around the guy without a care in the world. Just then, Kono steps out of the car, clearly not happy about it, so Mana urges her to hug Shogo too. As they nervously look into each other's eyes, Sagara steps out in a witch's outfit, after Miyabi, whose dress wows Shogo. He tells Miyabi that she looks cute, but just then, Mana begs Shogo to take them inside so she can stuff her face with some food. Shogo agrees to do it, making Miyabi feel left out. Once inside, Shogo's mom gives a speech, and after that, the party begins. Shogo looks around and notices a billionaire in the IT field named Neil, so he decides to chat with him, not knowing that Miyabi is feeling depressed. Later, Sagara approaches him and says Miyabi is missing, and she was acting strangely during the ride as well. Now worried, Shogo goes around looking for her when he spots Seri, but before he can approach her, Ikusu drags him away and tells him to stay quiet. Just then, they hear Seri talking to someone on the phone while holding a letter. She says this letter is enough to make Shogo lose his role as the company's next president, leaving Shogo shocked. After she leaves, he turns to Ikusu for answers, and Ikusu says it's obvious that Seri is working for someone who doesn't want him to become president. Shogo wants to tell his mother, but Ikusu says it won't be so easy without concrete proof, because his mom trusts Seri. In addition, telling his mom would also risk exposing Yuzu's identity to the public, so Ikusu asks Shogo to play his cards right, so they can catch Seri in the act. After that, Shogo gets a call from Yuzu, who says they found Mia Beam and just got lost. Shogo is relieved, so he asks Yuzu to meet him in private. There, he tells her the whole thing about Sayuri, and Yuzu reveals her dad used to send her letters along with money. She kept those letters because they were dear to her, but she is not afraid because it's their father's scandal and they have nothing to do with it. She also encourages him to find a wife and show everyone that he is worthy of leading the Mikadano group, and Shogo realizes that she's right. Now determined, Shogo decides to go back to the party, and Yuzu tells him to be careful towards Miyabi because she is definitely in love with him. Shogo is surprised and asks Yuzu's opinion on Miyabi, and she says she and Miyabi will be great friends. As he returns to the party, Miyabi suddenly jumps on him and demands a kiss, and that's when he notices that she's drunk. Sagara confirms this, which makes everyone worry for Miyabi. Just then, she starts to feel nauseous and ends up puking on Shogo. Later, she wakes up in the guest room with Shogo by her side and immediately asks if he did anything to her while she was out. Shogo quickly tells her he didn't even touch her, and she calms down knowing that he's not that type of guy. She then decides to take a shower while Shogo lies in the bed, registering everything that happened today. After she's done showering, she turns off the lights and returns to the room, getting on top of Shogo in a towel and asking him if he likes her peaches. Shogo gets nervous and starts fumbling with his words, but Miyabi tells him to stay still and let her do the work, leaving him stunned. As she comes closer to kiss him, Shogo notices the tears in her eyes and asks if she's okay, so Miyabi breaks down and begs him to stay with her forever. Shogo says he'd never leave her, but she says he already left once and she cannot watch him go again. Shogo apologizes and says that he came back into his life, and this time, he will never leave. Hearing this, Miyabi feels relaxed and falls asleep on his chest, so he tucks her into bed and goes out to see off the rest of his friends. There, Mana thanks him for the amazing food, and Rinka promises to introduce herself to his mom as his daughter-in-law. Kono asks how Miyabi is feeling, so Shogo says she's sleeping and he'll drop her off once she wakes up. Sagara tells him not to do anything sussy with Miyabi while she's asleep, and he assures her that he won't. Sagara says that if he does, she will curse him with a voodoo doll, but Shogo doesn't feel threatened by her witchcraft. After they leave, Yuzu notices that Sagara was super worried about Miyabi, and even Shogo doesn't recall how those two became close friends. Just then, his mom calls him in an angry tone, asking him what in God's name he was doing today because he made one of their guests sick. While Shogo is explaining himself, Yuzu slips away, and his mom says he only invited his friends to the party because Sayuri said he had to maintain his image in school. Shogo is shocked to hear this because he had asked Yuzu and not Sayuri about it. Meanwhile, Yuzu is chilling in the bathtub, stating that all the pieces are in place. The next day, Yuzu wakes up Shogo and brings him breakfast, and while eating, she jokes that if he'd like to have her for dessert. At this, Bro can't stop imagining how she'd look playing with his magic wand until she tells him to chill because it was just a joke. In response, he asks if what she said at the funeral was also a joke, but Yuzu says he never spoke to them at the funeral. While Shogo is confused, she says it could have been a prank from someone he knows, but deep down, she's hiding something. At school, Shogo realizes that Miyabi didn't come to school today and that Ikusu is sleeping in class. During lunch break, she tells him she didn't get any sleep because of her investigations, but sadly, she does not have any leads. Still, she warns him to stay vigilant as someone is out to get him before falling asleep on his shoulder. Just then, two students walk in and immediately leave, but Shogo hears them misunderstanding the situation because they still think Ikusu is a guy. Later, Shogo and Kono buy cake for Miyabi and head to her dorm room to check up on her. Soon after, they arrive at Miyabi's apartment and notice that she looks fine, so Miyabi says she was only feeling a bit tired. Hearing this, Kono shows her the cake and then heads to the kitchen to make tea, leaving an awkward silence between Shogo and Miyabi. Kono then returns to ask for tea bags, and Miyabi joins her in the kitchen, only to learn that she's run out. Kono decides to grab tea bags from her room instead, and after she leaves, Shogo and Miyabi sit uncomfortably. Eventually, Miyabi asks Shogo to kiss her, much to his shock. Seeing this, she gets upset and says she will not go to school until he kisses her. While Shogo is thinking what to do, Shai shyly says that he should at least go on a date with her if he's not going to kiss her. Before he can respond, they hear Kono walk in, so Miyabi quickly tells him to meet her on Sunday. That night, Shogo is treated to dinner by his sister, and he feels like he's getting spoiled. While he's eating, Yuzu mentions the girl who pranked her at the funeral, and says that since she was there, she saw that Kono was also there. Yuzu adds that she always had a feeling she had seen Kono before but couldn't figure out where, until he told her about the prank this morning. Shogo recalls Kono telling him that she had to take the entrance exam on that day and couldn't make it to the funeral, but Yuzu is certain she saw Kono there. Shogo is still not buying it, so Yuzu asks him to just be careful and not trust anyone blindly. This immediately reminds him of the day Miyabi begged him not to leave her, and even at night, he can't shake off the feeling that Kono has betrayed his trust. He doesn't understand why she would do that, as this story makes no sense in his head. The next day, Shogo is looking pale in class because he stayed up all night thinking, while Miyabi is cheerful because she has a date with Shogo. After class, Araya shows up and asks Miyabi if she's down for an interview for the newspaper club. She explains it will be about how Miyabi got into this school on a scholarship based on her swimming skills, and also about the upcoming regional meet qualifiers. Even though Miyabi wants to, she says she needs permission from the captain, but Araya says she already talked with the captain and Miyabi is good to go. Seeing this, Shogo decides to head home, but Miyabi quickly drags him away and tells him not to ghost her on Sunday. After that, Shogo heads out with Kono, saying he's glad to see Miyabi return to her normal self, but Kono is worried she's forcing herself to be happy. Konoha then apologizes for assuming things and says Miyabi must be excited for the upcoming qualifiers, but suddenly, Shogo realizes something and rushes back to the school. Meanwhile, in the student council room, Rinka is scolding Mana for not taking her job seriously. Suddenly, Shogo walks in and grabs Rinka, saying he wants to know something. Then, on the weekend, Shogo waits for Miyabi, who shows up looking like a cutie and takes his breath away. Miyabi notices him blushing and starts teasing him, so he gets annoyed and suggests they continue. Seeing this, Miyabi tells him to at least pretend to be nice before grabbing his hand and taking him across town. After having loads of fun, they grow closer to each other, and things get more cute when Miyabi showcases her new swimsuit to him. She then takes him back to school and asks him to watch her swim. She then completes the course in record time and becomes super happy when Shogo gives her approval. At the end of the day, she is beaming with joy, so she decides to take Shogo to Sagura's sister cafe for the perfect end of their date. In the meantime, Ikusu is busy doing her research and learns that Yuzu is an actress in the show Shogo used to love in his childhood, and it raises her sus meter. Back at the cafe, Shogo and Miyabi are welcomed in by Kurumi and Sagura, who ask if they're on a date. Miyabi quickly says yes, which makes Shogo nervous, so he orders today's special, which turns out to be a 4 billion calorie dessert. Miyabi makes him feed her because it reminds her of the time she used to come here with her mom. After that, she walks Shogo to his apartment, and before they say goodbye, Miyabi suddenly kisses him. She then declares that she loves him and wants him to be her boyfriend, but Shogo says he can't, which breaks her heart. She then runs off crying, and Shogo turns around to see Yuzu watching the whole thing. She apologizes for spying, but Shogo invites him to talk and says he's sorry that her plan didn't work. He suspects that Yuzu is trying to make Shogo fall for Miyabi, calling back to the party when Yuzu told him their dad's scandal has nothing to do with them. He agrees but also adds that if he ended up clapping his sister without knowing, that will become his scandal and it will ruin his reputation. At this, Yuzu says he does in fact want him to end up with Miyabi, and it shouldn't be a problem since he already knows who his sister is. However, Shogo only knows this thanks to the DNA test Suri conducted, but he believes those tests were fake. Shogo admits he initially felt stupid for trusting Suri with Yuzu's secret, but then Suri could have totally betrayed him by giving him someone else's results under false names. Yuzu says he's overthinking it, so he asks her about the invitations to the party, reminding her that she intended to use her foster parents' connections. However, he learned from his mom that it was Suri who asked for them, and his mom thinks Shogo was the one who requested them. Realizing she's being suspected, Yuzu falls to his knees and starts crying. Just then, Ikusu arrives and tells her to drop the act before calling her by her real name, Nayuri. Shogo realizes he's heard this name before, and she says Nayuri was a young actor who surprised the world with her skills, but she left the showbiz just after 2 years. Ikusu then reveals Nayuri worked as a star character in Shogo's favorite show, and this finally jogs his memory. Nayuri finally drops the act, saying that this was her best performance ever, and she was the one Suri was talking to on the phone during the party. Now that her secret is exposed, she says it's time for her to disappear and walks out of the room, but Shogo is now locked in, which worries Ikusu. The next day, he gets a call from Sagura telling him that Miyabi is in trouble, so he rushes to school and learns that she drowned during practice and has been crying ever since. She asks if something happened between him and Miyabi, but Shogo asks when she started calling Miyabi by her first name. Sagura tells him to shut up because it's not the time for this, but Shogo believes that Miyabi is hiding something, and it is crushing her. To stop her from torturing herself, he intends to face Miyabi head-on. So Sagara agrees to let him talk to her. Sagara then asks if she did wrong by hiding Miyabi's true identity, but Shogo says he's grateful that she protected his sister for so long. Once inside, he apologizes to Miyabi, but she thinks it's about yesterday and says it's fine. But Shogo says he's sorry for not realizing she's the one he talked to at the funeral. That day, the academy was holding the entrance exam, but Miyabi was accepted on a sports scholarship, so her exam was held on a different day. He even asked Rinka to check the students who took the test, and Miyabi's name was not there. Finally, Miyabi admits that she's the one whom he talked with at the funeral. She says it's true that their dads met at the hospital, but after that, Shogo's dad came to their home and begged Miyabi's father to accept money to raise his daughter. At first, she did not know what was going on, but after she did her investigation, she found an envelope with a letter inside. That letter made it clear that Miyabi was adopted and her real father was Shogo's dad, essentially making her his sister. Years later, she heard the news of his death, and since her foster parents had already divorced, she understood what losing a family member did to a human. Thus, she decided to console Shogo by becoming his new family. But deep down, she had feelings for him and still wanted to marry him. That's why she hid her identity from him, and she knew Yuzu was lying, but she used it as an opportunity to get closer to Shogo. However, she says her plan didn't work because he's already dating Kono, and she saw them kissing outside the dorm a few days ago. Shogo says he didn't actually kiss Kono, but Miyabi knows he was trying to, which he admits. Miyabi says she was so pissed that she went to Yuzu and confronted her for lying, and Yuzu admitted that it was indeed a lie. But she told another lie by saying she's Shogo's cousin, who is protecting him from his real sister, and asked if Miyabi knew who the real sister was. Miyabi was hesitant at first, but Yuzu promised that she would support Shogo's sister in hiding her identity, so Miyabi admitted it was her. Yuzu asked for proof, and Miyabi said she has letters from her father that will prove everything. Yuzu then invited her to the Mikadono party and told her to bring the letters there. However, at the party, Miyabi decided to back out because she had a gut feeling that this was wrong. But Yuzu stole the letter from her bag anyway without her knowledge. The next day, when Miyabi skipped school, Yuzu visited her and told her to forget about the letter altogether so she could marry Shogo. At that time, Miyabi thought Yuzu wanted the best for her, but Shogo tells her that she's hired by his rivals to ruin his company's reputation. Once she realizes how much she messed up, Miyabi can't help but bawl her eyes out, but Shogo comforts her because she was deceived. Miyabi asks if he'll ever forgive her, but he gently holds her hand and tells her that they're siblings and there's nothing to forgive, which makes her feel better. The next day, everyone cheers for Miyabi to reach the prelims, but she misses out on it by an inch. Despite this, she feels proud and happy because she is free from hiding her identity. Later, Ikusu tells him that Yuzu has disappeared, but she's pulled some strings to make sure no one bothers him. Shogo thanks her for everything and promises to protect Miyabi from his rivals. Just then, the whole cast of chicks comes running towards Shogo, accusing him of having fruity fantasies with Ikusu. Sagara then mentions that now Shogo knows who his sister is, so he is free to clap anyone he wants, which makes Rinka and Kano hungry for his sausage. Miyabi tells them to back off because Shogo is her brother, but Shogo runs off to protect his V card. That's it for this video. If you made it to the end, comment, "I love my stepsister" as proof. If you want to see more recaps, watch this video on screen.